Hey everybody, it's Adam Farkas. Welcome to another ODwire webinar. Thanks so much for making it out tonight. Now, tonight's talk is all about using innovation to grow your practice with the latest technologies. Of course, if you're an ODwire member, you know just by following along that we're pretty much tech junkies here at ODwire. But the talk's not really about technology for technology's sake and the latest coolest things. This is really about how you can implement technology that will help grow your practice in a very sort of directed way. So it's not just all about what's flashy, it's what actually works and what you can integrate into your practice. And we have a true expert with us here tonight, Dr. Michelle Hoff, and she's going to tell us all about sort of the latest technologies so you can get a real sense and overview of what you could do in your practice with all of this. And, Dr. Hoff, if you've ever actually taken CWire, you've probably seen one of her lectures, or you may have actually seen one of her webinars here before. She's kind of unique among the speakers that we invite to do this because, before she was an optometrist, she was also an optician. So she has a very broad view of the field and knows a lot about a lot. So she's the perfect person to actually talk to us all about the different technologies that you can implement in your practice. So with that said, why don't I turn this on over to Dr. Hoff?
Wow, well, thank you so much. And thanks again for having me back again on ODwire. Really excited about being here. This is one of my favorite things to do. And thanks to Visionix for sponsoring this. I'm not an employee of Visionix, but I do work with them quite a bit, doing some consulting and working with various offices that have their technology. So, and I personally have worked with their technology as well. So I feel kind of fortunate to be able to talk about it. And before we got started, Adam and I were kind of discussing, how optometry has changed over the last 20, 30 years. And, in the past 20 years, technology has reshaped how we practice optometry. And eye care professionals who embrace the latest technology and innovation are able to increase the eye care accessibility and elevate patient experience. So, there's kind of three goals that motivate us to invest in new technology, and they are to improve patient care, streamline our office flow, and then, of course, to boost our practice revenue. All right, so let me go through a little bit about our agenda for today. So I want to tell you that my really good friend and colleague, Dr. Isabel Kazemi, and I created this presentation for something that we did in the past. And unfortunately, she's not able to join us tonight, but because she's teaching our fourth-year students at a community clinic in Marin County. So I'm going to fly solo tonight. I usually do about half of this, and then she does the other half. So it might seem, hopefully I can make it look seamless for you. Anyway, so during this webinar, I'm going to take you on a little journey to unlock your potential, hopefully. First, I'd like to discuss the latest innovations in eye care and the three big reasons why we invest in technology, and then review the latest instrumentation and demonstrate how these devices can help you and your staff to diagnose, treat, and troubleshoot more efficiently and effectively. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, is illustrate how you can elevate your patient's experience and grow your practice revenue. All right, so let's see if it works. Yay, okay, it worked. So I want to start with two terms, and I want to define these two terms. There's disruptive innovation and technological advancement. So disruptive innovation is described as making changes by integrating new technologies, streamlining processes, and then redefining the way things are done to ultimately replace existing modalities. So I was kind of thinking about that and what would be like the new normal. And so I thought, oh, email, right? Because for the most part, email has sort of replaced handwritten letters, right? So we don't really use the mail as much as we used to. Or here's another one for people who might be of my generation. Our iPhone or our phone pretty much does almost everything. We don't have to carry a camera. We don't carry a boombox around for all of our music. I mean, we have this little tiny device that fits in our back pocket that does so much more than and takes the place of many things. So that would be a disruptive innovation. Now, a technological advancement is a change in a product or a service that is more precise and accurate, resulting in an increased efficiency. So a really good example of that might be the digital phoropter. It's an appealing alternative to a manual phoropter, but hasn't really replaced the existing instrument or the procedure that we do. So for better or worse, disruptive innovation has the potential to alter the standard of care and change the way we practice optometry, and will continue to influence our profession. So assessing innovation. In some cases, like I said, disruptive innovation represents a catalyst for a positive change. So before we adopt any new technology, we need to evaluate how it applies to our main goals. So let's take the example of the digital phoropter that I had. Does the digital phoropter improve patient care and increase the access to vision services? Will this phoropter help me focus more on patient care? Will it streamline my patient flow and office efficiency? Is it easier to use? And will the investment boost my practice revenue? And what is the return on this investment? Okay, so thinking about those things is really important. So what are the top motivations in vision care that improve clinical outcomes, productivity, and profitability? Well, we have Wavefront Technology, which was introduced in the late 1990s in the form of the excimer laser. In the past decade, Wavefront aberrometry has been applied to vision and ocular surface diagnosis, refractive and IOL surgeries, as well as pre- and post-surgical management, and it's rapidly becoming an indispensable tool for us. Now, OCT, or optical coherence tomography, has changed the fundamental nature and accuracy of ocular health care, allowing for earlier detection and diagnosis of many sight-threatening diseases. And then, of course, automated data gathering continues to change how we maintain our clinical records and also analyze our business metrics. So let's talk about Wavefront technology and vision care. And initially, it was reserved for cutting-edge fields like astronomy. And then in 1994, Dr. Mark Abitbol brought this technology to vision care. So what is Wavefront technology? And this is how I think of it. Think of light as a traveling wave, and the irregularities in the wave front are represented by the eye's lower and higher order aberrations. Now, aberrometry is the measurement of these irregularities as the light passes through an imperfect eye. So symptoms associated to higher order aberrations would include halos, glare, and poor night vision. Now, from the tear film all the way to the retina, Wavefront technology accurately measures these higher order aberrations that can't be detected with your standard refraction. So Wavefront technology is now incorporated in corneal topography, phoropters, autorefractors, refractive surgery, and of course, spectacle lens analyzers, which is one of my favorite things. All right, so the motivation to invest. What is our motivation to purchase new technology? Do we want to add new procedures and services, or just improve on the existing ones? Can we improve office efficiency by replacing several devices with a combination instrument? Now, these multi-diagnostic instruments can gather multiple data points in less time while occupying a smaller footprint. And so one instrument could conceivably take the place of 2 or 3. And by adding new technology, we create a positive experience for our patients and increase the quality of patient care. And finally, we can seamlessly integrate all the data points into the EHR, which will streamline the workflow throughout the office and also maybe decrease any recording errors that we might make. All right, so let's do this. Let's imagine the perfect patient encounter. The patient checks in on time for their appointment, and they've already filled out all of their information because you sent it to them electronically when they made the appointment, right? So they come in and they check in. And then your optometric technician reviews the history, then performs a diagnostic examination to collect and transmit all of the optical, refractive, and ocular health data to the exam room. And then, armed with all of this data, you, the doctor, can quickly and accurately complete the examination, allowing for more quality time with the patient to discuss recommendations and treatment plans. And you can use all the visual images from the instruments to demonstrate why you're making specific recommendations for, say, their dry eye treatment, or show them their ocular health findings, and also show them and discuss any of the ophthalmic visual solutions that you're going to prescribe. Now, after that, they can proceed into the optical, and your opticians can continue to support your optical treatment plan with the latest technology for proper vision and comfort. And as you can see, automated technology facilitates information gathering and documentation while streamlining your office efficiency. So each point of contact during the patient's visit is an opportunity to build trust and gain your patient loyalty. All right. So now let's look at a suite of intelligent diagnostic, screening, refractive, and lab finishing equipment. And I'm going to review these starting kind of in the order of the exam flow. So usually the first piece of data that you need to collect is usually the spectacle prescription. And so compared to a manual or automated lensometer, the VX40 lens analyzer is fully automated. It measures a larger area of the lens and uses Wavefront technology to create 3 topographic maps. And unlike a manual or automated lensometer, the VX40 eliminates the user dependence, which means you don't have to train somebody as extensively to use, say, a manual or an automated lensometer. And it also captures reliable and repeatable data. The instrument automatically identifies the difference between a single vision and a variable power lens. Now, moving on in the exam, next the technician would use either a VX120 or a 650 multi-diagnostic instrument to complete that diagnostic examination in less than about 2 minutes. It's really very quick. And these instruments perform, as you know, refraction, keratometry, aberrometry, topography, pachymetry, tonometry, angle estimation, and a whole bunch more stuff. So the main difference between these 2 instruments is that the VX120 can come with a dry eye module, or the VX650 has the retinal imaging module. So this allows you to select the unit that best fits your practice needs, and you can customize it to what you need. Now, the iRefract is a unique instrument that can be used either in the pre-examination area, or you can put it directly into your exam room, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But during the pre-examination, using the iRefract, the technician conducts the majority of the visual acuity assessment, or the functional vision assessment, and then transmits those findings to the exam room so that you, the doctor, can refine it, which reduces significantly the amount of time the patient has to spend behind that phoropter. And then, moving right along, the OCT, which I said has fundamentally changed how we diagnose and treat ocular abnormalities. Many patients have hidden pathology that can only be detected using an OCT. And I saw one study just recently that said 30% of patients being screened for an IOL had underlying pathology that was not seen on a regular just a regular clinical exam. So that to me is just mind-blowing. Now, the iWellness exam is a feature that is included in all of your OptiView OCTs and provides early detection of many ocular diseases that you don't see on a fundus photo. And it also flags existing pathology 96% of the time. So that's a pretty good percentage. Now, if you're already offering screening fundus photos, then you're familiar with a wellness screening because that's what you're doing. However, if you, the OCT is sort of, I think of an advanced high-resolution 3D screening approach. So you're elevating your patient care to a higher level. And so offering your fundus photos and an iWellness screening package can be a new source of revenue because it's a separate charge from, say, a medically billable OCT. Visionix has several OptiView OCT instruments that can fit your practice needs and capabilities. All right, so visual evaluation, let's think about it. Phoropter testing is really the pillar of optometry. And if we do this traditionally the way we were taught, it takes a lot of chair time, as you can see by the math on the slide there. And it's also kind of a source of patient anxiety and fatigue because they never really know if they're answering correctly. So imagine if all the pre-examination data was automatically transferred to your exam room, providing a reliable starting point that you could easily refine in, say, 1 or 2 minutes. Then you could use the VX65, which allows you to sit comfortably and control the functions of the digital phoropter and the automated acuity chart from a tablet while sitting comfortably in a chair. In fact, I think I know one doctor who sits in a chair with his feet up while he's doing this. Now, or you could, there's another alternative too. You could put the fully automated iRefract into your exam room and complete a full visual evaluation using that. And the patient's vision is measured under bright and low lighting conditions to generate a day and a nighttime prescription, which is unique to the iRefract. Measurements are taken under binocular conditions, so that's kind of natural viewing conditions, using 2 wavefront aberrometers to deliver a high accurate visual assessment in less than 4 minutes, compared to if you were going to do the same set of tests manually, it would take about 10 minutes. So you're saving about 6 minutes per patient right there. You can spend 6 more minutes talking to them. So it's interesting because patients are impressed with the technology of an automated refraction and perceive that they're getting a more thorough exam. And patients who probably wouldn't ordinarily purchase a new pair of glasses might now buy new glasses because with the push of a button, you can show them the difference between their old prescription and their new prescription. You can also show them the difference between a day prescription and a night prescription. So this might help with your multiple pair prescribing as well. Okay, so as we move through the eye exam, remember the pre-examination equipment has already provided you with an extensive diagnostic set of data. The VX120 with the dry eye module is ideal diagnostic tool for that dry eye practice and collects medically billable dry eye diagnostic data. It features analysis of tear breakup time, tear meniscus height, and high definition color images of meibomian glands. And with dry eye module and automated tonometry, there's really no need for fluorescein, so that saves you time and it's a better experience for your patients. Now the VX650 with the retinal imaging module is ideal diagnostic tool for that posterior segment specialty practice and collects, again, medically billable posterior segment diagnostic data to detect early signs of glaucoma, diabetes, AMD, and other retinal pathologies. So using all the diagnostic tools and information from these instruments, you can review the images with your patient to demonstrate the need for the personalized treatment plan, as well as track their progress. Now, what about investing in the technology in the part of your practice that generates pretty much a high volume of percentage of your revenue? And that's your optical and your opticians. The VX40 lens analyzer will give you and your opticians the necessary tools to prescribe the appropriate lens selection, troubleshoot, and then of course efficiently analyze the jobs that come back from the lab. Your staff can use the Wavefront images from the VX40 analyzer in the optical to support your prescribing and recommendations for premium ophthalmic products and boost multiple pair sales. The images make it easy for the optician to explain why a premium lens design is better than, say, a standard or an online progressive lens. And this instrument also simplifies troubleshooting situation. So let's say that your patient isn't seeing well with a new prescription or a new lens design. The optician can use the VX40 wavefront maps to diagnose, explain, and then resolve the symptoms resulting from these lenses. And that cuts down on the need to return to your exam room. Patients are also impressed when you show them their fundus photos, right? So the images from the VX40 will also drive that wow factor to increase patient satisfaction and the confidence in your optical recommendations. Now, adding and updating an existing lab or finishing equipment to state-of-the-art instruments will reduce your lab bill, increase profitability, and then differentiate you from other practices. So the Brio Couture lens finishing system has a space-saving, it's really small, it doesn't take up much room at all, has a blocker and an edger. And the blocking unit uses Wavefront technology to preview the lens design. So you can actually, if you look at that image on the right-hand side over there, you can actually see the image of it looks like a hard design progressive to me. And the blocking unit, like I said, uses this Wavefront technology to preview the design, then automatically and accurately blocks the lens, which eliminates the need to do the reverse lensometry. So the skill level, it doesn't have to be as high as it was before. And this is the only tracer on the market able to create 3D model of the entire frame, including thickness, shape, and groove placement. 3D graphic visualization lets the optician and the patient preview the predicted finished eyewear, which I think is spectacular. For the optician, this feature is extremely useful when selecting the most appropriate frame, lens material, and lens design, especially for those really challenging prescriptions. And the advanced innovations in the machine's sensors and software eliminate the biggest challenges of edging and significantly reduces the amount of redos that you have too. And also, which really interesting, I thought was really great, is these edgers are environmentally friendly because the water consumption has been reduced from 16 liters to 5. So in-office finishing elevates the level of vision care for the patient because you can make their glasses a lot faster and you have control over what product they're getting. And it also, like I said, it adds a new revenue source. So that's always something to think about when adding new technology. So let's talk a little bit about elevating the patient experience. The staff, your office staff, have an invaluable role in elevating your patient experience and are an essential part of the exam flow. So it's important to ensure that the entire staff is involved in creating an office environment that conveys state-of-the-art personalized vision care from start to finish. And I really have to emphasize this because the biggest key to successfully implementing new equipment into your practice is to empower your staff to take ownership of the new technology by involving them at the onset of the purchase and ensure everyone takes part in the training. So I've seen where instrumentation has been sort of sprung onto the staff and they're like, whoa, what are you doing? You know, we're not on board with this, and eventually that will fail. But when everyone's engaged in the process, they know that they are part of the team and are collectively invested into the practice. And this advanced suite of instruments requires minimal training to achieve a skill level needed to collect accurate, repeatable, and reliable data. So entrusting your staff with greater responsibilities encourages them to become involved in the patient care as well. And by delegating the collection of diagnostic information to the optometric technician, the doctor can spend more time with the patient explaining the diagnosis and treatment plan. And you know, we were taught to be data gatherers in optometry school, but now with disruptive innovation and technological advanced equipment, we can delegate this task and focus more on direct patient care, which I think is amazing. So I've said it before, communication is the key to success. And today's patients are more proactive and involved in their healthcare and expect more from their providers. It doesn't matter if the condition is a functional vision problem like presbyopia or an ocular condition like glaucoma. Sharing data and images with your patient involves them in the process of vision care and motivates better compliance with your treatment plan. Investing in a comprehensive portfolio of technologically advanced instruments provides your ability to communicate complex findings and elevate the quality of care received at your office. So the three main goals that motivate us to invest in new technology, I think I mentioned before, are to improve patient care, streamline office flow, and then of course boost your practice revenue. Now I want to pose a question to you. Who or what drives your decision-making process? Well, when we asked some optometrists this question, they said they rely on their friends or their colleagues for advice because they want to know what they have in their office. And some of them even say, well, I'll just let the product speak for itself. So before I end with you tonight, and my last slide here has to do with growing your practice, I want to share a story that Dr. Kazemi told me when we were talking and we were making this, this presentation. And she said to me, she was in practice in San Francisco for about 20 years, had her own practice with a partner. And she said many years ago, when her practice was switching from paper charts to an EHR, she and her business partner were attending a training seminar for their new EHR system. And at the time, she had also just bought her first luxury car. And they were enjoying the ride back from Sacramento to San Francisco. And during the ride, she said, you know, they were talking about how nervous they were and yet excited they were for this huge change to be happening in their office. And she told her partner, you know, this change in our office is kind of like my new car. With the old car, I could still get where I wanted to go, but with the new car, I get there so much faster using navigation, and the travel is kind of in comfort and style. You know, my car is sort of a status symbol and it looks kind of expensive, so it's very impressive. Now, while it took a little bit of time for me to learn how to use my new car, you know, all the bells and whistles that it had, once I did, I truly enjoyed the experience. So I guess what I was trying to say is that it's important to embrace innovation and technology by investing in yourselves, investing in your patients and your staff. And the newest technology helps us to deliver high level of patient care that exceeds our patients' expectations. And yes, some technology is billable, while other technology just helps us do our job more accurately and efficiently. So that's basically all I had for you today on technology and innovation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, well, thank you, Michelle. And if anybody has any questions, again, feel free to type into that question box, and we will answer them as they come in. And I will actually pull up my question box here so I can see what's going on. So I guess the first question that I had here, and this is an interesting one, especially with your optical background, right? It was
Sure.
always sort of a dogma that if you want to grow revenues in your practice, one of the great ways to do it is to get an edger, right? I mean, 20 years ago, you asked people like, what should I get? Oh yeah, get an edger. So, you know, so what's it like these days? I guess this is the first question that came in terms of edgers for people who've never actually had one. Is that still the case?
Well, you know, it's you kind of got to figure out the cost to benefit, right? You got to get enough jobs rolling through your office to make it profitable. And there's sort of a formula for that. And you know, so the cost of buying, the cost of leasing. I mean, we could do a whole lecture on when you should put in an optical lab. But sure, definitely, if you've got a high-end sort of not even high end, if you do a high volume, it's still, to me, worth it because you control what products going in, what products going out. And today I find that a lot of the large laboratories have a lot of staff turnover. And so you'll go through a time where the product coming out of the lab, you got to look at really carefully because there's mistakes that are made. And then once they get that person up and running, you don't have to watch it so carefully. But you know, you can control the kind of quality and product that you're putting out there. And interestingly enough, a lot of laboratories have what we call proprietary brands that you can buy and just get semi-finished lenses and cut them in your office. That's a lot cheaper than the higher name brand lenses. So that's a possibility. Yeah, I'd still say, that's one of the ways that you can increase revenue and increase your patient satisfaction is by putting in a finishing lab.
Right. And I haven't actually been following it too closely. I remember in the old days, the machines could be somewhat finicky. I don't know. It looks like the tech has advanced since then. I
Oh yeah,
remember the old days, the smell people would talk about and all that stuff. But I think that's probably in the rearview mirror.
yeah, no, it's not bad. I mean, you still need to have, some ventilation and things like that. But interestingly enough, polycarbonate is a recyclable material. So you can actually take they call it swarf, but the stuff that comes off of edging and recycle it, and it gets sent out to remade into other things. So it's kind of cool, all the stuff we have today.
Excellent. Question here, strategies to engage staff. So you mentioned obviously bringing in a big change like this can be upsetting to some people. What would you say is sort of the best way to get them to buy into this?
And that's interesting because I've been doing some consulting with an office where the doctor really wanted to bring in this new technology, and the staff are just dragging their feet. And he finally just bought one and forced it on them. And now they're just, I get calls all the time saying, how am I going to get these guys to use this? And it's communication. And I really firmly believe that if you can go to a trade show, or if you can have someone come into the office and demonstrate this, you got to have everybody on board from the get-go, because like I said, it's going to be a disaster. People are not going to accept it if they're not part of the team. If they weren't part of the decision making from the beginning, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Right, because I'm thinking also about the changing role of the doctor, as you mentioned, right? You're moving from a place where you are collecting that information and now you're pushing that onto your staff. Is that something that you explicitly acknowledge with the staff?
Well,
Hey, this is going to be, how we're doing it now.
Absolutely. And it's, you have to think about what you're asking them to do. And if you need to hire another person, you're going to make the money back over and over again, because you're going to see more patients, you're going to hire patient satisfaction. A lot of times the staff are willing to do it. They want to be more involved in patient care. They want to understand what's happening. So, if you come at it from a positive standpoint, hey, if you want, I'm going to give you more responsibility. I'm going to train you to do this. I'm going to pay you to do this, and we're going to get more help, So everybody has to be on board. You have to build the team so that everybody is willing to play.
Right, and I'm sure for some people it would be intimidating, but others probably feel like, wow, I'm actually, doing the job that the doctor was doing. So this is sort of an upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd be surprised how much, especially the younger people that are coming in, they're very excited about being involved in this. They may not want to go to optometry school, but they may want to be a vision care. I call it a vision care specialist. They specialize in vision care, and they're the ones that are gathering the data. They're the ones that are looking and saying, this looks okay, this doesn't look okay. I need to get the doctor to look at this right away. This is something that could wait. And we have to think about teleoptometry too. There's a role for a vision care specialist in teleoptometry, and they're supporting the optometrist who's making the decisions and making the treatment plans.
Right. We just had a comment come in here, creative title for staff, sort of elevating their role by giving them a different title.
Absolutely, yeah. And with the title, it has to go compensation. And that's a problem, because I feel like a lot of opticians and a lot of para-optometrics, you give them a lot of responsibility, but yet they're not getting compensated for it.
Right.
And I feel like if you increase your patient numbers, you can afford to compensate your staff for that.
Right. And question here actually about training. So, you mentioned that you want to get the staff engaged. When you actually implement a system like this, how does training actually happen? Do the folks who sold you the system come on site, or do you do it online? How does it all work?
There's a combination of both. There's like when I was with one office that put in a pretty good amount of equipment. They put in a 120 dry eye, they put in iScan 80, they put in a digital phoropter, and they put in a VX40. So we had basically an installation day and then a full training day. And then there's great resources. The academy that that Visionix has a lot of information in there. And then of course, you can always hire a consultant to come in too. If you feel like you want more information, you can do that as well.
Right.
But
I recall from what Visionix told us last time, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, that they can also remotely work with you on the device. They use things like TeamViewer to actually sort of remotely be there when you need them if you're having trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in fact, I've done that a couple times at some of the offices I consult with. We'll log in with TeamViewer and go through a couple things and troubleshoot.
Cool. All right. So next question here. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer this one. It has to do with price and how pricing works on the system. So any Visionix folks here?
Yeah, I will punt that one.
Yes. Because that would actually be definitely out of your wheelhouse. But I don't know if Rachel's still here.
Sierra or Rachel might be able to handle that.
Yeah, I'm still.
What was the question again?
Oh, the question was pricing. How does this actually work in terms of acquisition of the devices? Do people usually lease them? Do they buy them? How does it usually work?
So we have multiple options. People can either lease, purchase outright, or finance. And prices vary depending on, obviously, the more you buy, the more discounts you get, things like that. So if you go to, on the next slide, it'll show visionix.com/US/ODwire. You can fill out a form online and we can get you connected with your rep and they can give you pricing.
Excellent. And I guess that I totally overlooked another question here, but this is important. We showed a bunch of different pieces of equipment. I can actually pull the slide back up again. There we go. One question here was, how does it all work together? Is there a common piece of software that it's actually using to have all the data go back and forth?
There's a network connection. I believe it runs through what they call the VBox. And so there's a way that each instrument can connect through and then go to your EHR. And it depends on which EHR you have, but they have it's kind of a box that all the data goes to, and then the box sort of distributes it out. That's a technical question that I just know there's a magic box that happens.
Right. So I guess then just to put it more concretely, so we have a picture of the VX40 up here. Let's say somebody comes in with a pair of specs that they absolutely hate, right? And you put it in the VX40. What happens with that data once it comes up on the screen? Can you put it somewhere else?
Yes, so there's in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the option to send the information to, you can send it to a flash drive connected to the back. You can send it to the Phoropter, which it gets sent over to the VX65, and you can pull that up. And you can also send images to a folder in your system so that you can capture any of the images and data, and it can get set to a folder on your system as well.
Oh, so that's interesting. So hang on a second. So the VX40 can send it straight to the Phoropter, so you can actually show people how terrible their old specs were and do an A/B test with the new ones.
Yes. So you have the ability using the tablet to go to previous, or we call it LM because it's lens measurement. So you can say, here's your previous glasses, and here's what I'm prescribing for you today. And so it just shows it goes right back and forth. So they can visually see it, but you can also, for example, I can compare 2 or 3 pair of glasses by capturing the images and storing them there, and then switching between and showing the patient, here's why you don't like this pair of glasses, because there's a lot of blur and swim at the bottom of this lens. So that piece of equipment is probably what I'm best known for, but the VX40 I've used to analyze hundreds of different lens designs, and I can tell you what the patient's going to say when they put them on I'm going to say they like the distance part, but the intermediate's too small and they're going to experience a lot of blur and swim on the bottom right-hand side or something.
Right. So
Yeah.
for progressives, it's an invaluable tool.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, I've just worked with the new Zeiss single vision lens, and oh my goodness, I was able to prove to myself that the Zeiss single vision is way better than the standard Zeiss single vision. So they have their clear view, and I was able to see the off-axis aberration of the standard lens versus their new clear view. So it works even on a single vision. I can, see the difference.
Wow. Very neat. Question here. You mentioned the OCT part of this. This person is starting to dabble in sclerals. Which OCT unit can they use? Sort of I think you showed sort of the base unit. Can any of these OCTs work if they want to start doing scleral work, or do they need a higher end unit?
With an OCT, well, I think you can do scleral fitting with the 120 as well, because it does anterior chamber stuff. So both the 650 and the 120, you can do contact lens fitting with that. The OCT, I'm not as familiar with that, but I do know that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for the OCT, we have our OptiView Solix, and that is the first full range anterior.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the Solix yet.
Yep.
Excellent. And actually, we did a webinar on that, didn't we? So if you go back to ODwire when you're done with this, if you're curious, for the person who asked the question, you can pull up the webinar on the Solix and you can see some very pretty pictures. Yep. Great. And let me see these other questions that we have coming in here. So more pricing questions. So again, for pricing, we can just send you on. Let me get to the right page here. There we go. Visionix.com/US/ODwire. Go there and you can meet the folks at Visionix, and they'll step you through how it all works, and you can watch a little demo as well.
Yeah, and then come to Vision Expo West and come play with this stuff too.
Yes, that's as much as I love CEwire and doing stuff online, there's nothing beats actually fiddling with stuff. So definitely stop by the Visionix booth. I'll be there too, taking pictures, and it's always fun to actually get out there and use the equipment for real. And I haven't seen the Solix yet in person, so this will be my first time too. Well, great. So let me just run through a couple more questions here, and then we will wrap it up for the evening. And whoops. So this is an interesting question. So it was a philosophical question, just like we had before. What is the role of an optometrist? At this point, well, I mean, it is an interesting question, right?
It's a very interesting question, and I think you're right, because as we were talking about it, optometry has changed so much. I graduated 30 years ago, and at that time I was very interested in ophthalmics and binocular vision and sports vision and things like that. And I found out I had to learn everything about, ocular health and systemic and pharm, in addition to all the stuff that I wanted to know. And now, we have all these great instruments that allow us to get out and be more accessible to public. To in the rural areas, we can do teleoptometry. And we were always taught to be data gatherers and to hang on to the information. Don't let that information out of your hands. And that's not the case anymore. I really feel like there's the profession of vision care, and there are a lot of different roles within the profession of vision care, where there's an optometrist, there's an ophthalmologist, there's an optician, and of course, there's the vision care specialist, someone who supports the optometrist, the doctor that has the ability to make these decisions and treatment plans. And our role is to diagnose and treat. And so I really feel like we don't have to gather the data anymore. We take the data and we, look at it and analyze it and talk to the patient and guide them through, because patients are very, very much interactive with their own, proactive with their own care. And so we need to work with the patient And I think that's where the optometrist is now.
Yep, agreed. So I think that this is a great place to leave it on this sort of deep philosophical question.
Yes.
But if people have more questions, an archive of this webinar will be posted up on ODwire. So come on back there. Feel free to type in the discussion thread that'll run beneath it if you have any more questions. And otherwise, I guess we'll see everybody at Expo West hopefully, or at an upcoming CWire where we're going to be rerunning this webinar as well. So Michelle, thanks so much for coming out tonight, and I just want to thank everyone at Visionix for coming out as well and sponsoring tonight's show. So again, Michelle, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me here. And yeah, I'll be at Vision Expo West, so I'm hanging out at the booth. So if anybody wants to bend my ear, I'll be there.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll see you there.
All right, thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.